everyone, I'm Shaheen from the Content Mix, and I'm excited to be here with Elena Solera, Communication and Marketing Director at Finnovista, which is an organization that promotes innovation in the finance and insurance sectors in Spain and Latin America. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
So to get started, can you just tell us a bit about your background and how you got into your current role at Finnovista?
Well, so actually my background is journalism. So I have a degree in journalism and I got specialized in business and economics. So I worked for Spanish media in Brussels, Istanbul and Madrid. And I was a reporter for 10 years. And during that time, I always worked for print media. So in 2012, I decided to go for a change. And at that moment, I don't have any knowledge about any kind of digital communications. And it was obvious for me that many opportunities will come from the digital world in the following years. So I started to learn about digital projects. I had the opportunity to find an economic blog working for a bank. And soon after joining this bank, I got involved in designing communication and marketing actions for innovation, technology, and entrepreneurship, which happens to be a super inspiring environment. And I've been working in this kind of projects until now.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and how did you end up going to Finnovista?
So, well, I got into this role because, I found out that Finnovista was looking for a communication and marketing director. And I knew the founders of Finnovista, Andres and Fermin, because I worked together with them in previous positions. And I knew that they were doing amazing projects in fintech and insurtech. And they have built a very strong innovation and entrepreneurship community in Latin American countries. So I got in touch with them. I told them that I wanted to be part of the adventure, and fortunately they remember who I was, and it was the beginning of it.
So when you got into journalism, did you have a special interest in like business and finance at that time, or was that something that you developed over the years?
So for me, what I have always feel passionate about is about telling stories. So when I decided to be a journalist, what I wanted is telling people stories. Business and economic has always been part of what I am, the topics that I'm interested in. And I have always been very comfortable with numbers and all the things that have to do with wealth creation and so on. But for me, the most relevant part is telling people stories. That's what was relevant for me when I decided to move for journalism.
Mm-hmm. My background is also in financial journalism, by the way. So we have that in common. And yeah, it definitely was a passion that I developed, but also because there's a lot of opportunities. There were, at least at the time, more in finance, right? But I think if it's something you like, it's really interesting because it opens a lot of doors also for like that specialization.
Yeah, the thing is that not many journalists go for journalism, and that's a pity because it's a very interesting field and it has many opportunities.
For finance, you mean? Yeah.
Yeah, for finance, yes.
Yeah, and ultimately you are telling people stories because it comes down to people, everything that you're writing about in finance, right?
Yeah. For example, one of the projects that I had the opportunity to work before was delivering the communication and marketing strategy for an application that was related to big data. And it was big data for retailers. And the most interesting part about this project was getting in touch with people that has a shoe shop, people that has a restaurant, a cafeteria. All of them are in touch with economic and finance, and all of them has to tell a story. And it was an amazing project. I love it. Yes.
Very cool. And now you're working a lot with entrepreneurs. So what are the kinds of stories you're telling these days, and how is Finnovista using content?
So for us, content is the cornerstone of our strategy. So anytime that we are facing a new activity in Finnovista, the approach that we are following to this action And this action can be one event, can be an acceleration program, can be a research project. The first thing that we think about is what's the story that we want to tell to our community, to our audiences. And this makes up answering questions like what are the problems that our community has right now, and how we can help them to solve these problems. So with all this information, with all this type of brainstorming work, we create a document that is a storytelling document. And this is going to be like a kind of the basics, where we are going to build on top of it all the communication elements of our strategy. So for creating an animal marketing campaign, to create the social media impacts, to create the designed materials for this campaign, we are going to have a look at the storytelling of this initiative, understand what we are trying to achieve, and then create the materials.
Okay, and so what kind of channels are you publishing content on?
So right now we have our email marketing activities. We have presence in the social media networks like, for example, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube, and Instagram, of course. Also, we deliver video. And we have like a very strong relationship with media, especially in Mexico and Latin American countries. And one of the most relevant parts of our communication activities, because we are kind of a facilitator and we work a lot with the community, are our partner networks. So we are in touch with many organizations in different countries that work together with entrepreneurs. And anytime that we are creating a new initiative, we get in touch with them. We explain them what we are trying to deliver to the community, and we ask for their support. And we deliver to them like communication materials to support us in the communication. And actually, we have very good responses from them. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, very cool. And who's the audience that you're targeting? Are you writing for the entrepreneurs, for the corporates, or do you target different types of content for each audience? What's your main kind of objective with the content?
So we are a community facilitator. So we get in touch. Our main audiences are innovators. We call it in that way to include all the people that are in touch with innovation or are working on innovation these days. And especially the sub-segments that we have are entrepreneurs and startups, corporates, and all these institutions that are working on innovation, like co-workings, innovation hubs, accelerators, and other types of institutions.
And I notice you do most of your content both in Spanish and English. Even though your target is in Latin America and Spain, why do you think it's important to also do English content?
Well, so one of the things that is important for us is that one of the main countries in Latin America in terms of technology, innovation, and entrepreneurship is Brazil. So actually, although we don't have any Portuguese-speaking people in the communication team right now, we deliver all the content in English to arrive at this market as well. And also because there is a part of the activities that we develop that takes place in Miami. And this is a bilingual community. So we deliver the communication in the two languages to be able to have a better push in this community.
Mm-hmm. So I imagine some of the people that you're targeting are also international people who maybe don't understand Spanish as well as English.
Yeah, actually, this is very interesting for us. So, for example, for the acceleration and scale program, we are targeting companies that are in Latin America, but also we are targeting companies that has an interest in Latin America. So, for example, if there is a Swedish company that would like to expand their operations to Mexico, we would like to invite them to take part in the programs that we are organizing. That's why we are delivering the communication in the two languages.
Mm-hmm. Makes a lot of sense. And I guess a lot of the companies, the platforms, their audiences are in English, so they need to have international teams and all of that. So
yeah.
Very cool. Yeah. So you were mentioning that you're doing your focus in the organization is really doing events and programs for fintech startups and corporates. I was curious how you're being impacted right now that we can't do physical events in business?
Yeah, so actually, this is a very relevant question because it's something that we have to face on a daily basis. So we have a very relevant events that take place in Mexico and Miami, and we had to decide to adapt the communication that we were doing for those events during the year. So, for example, as you know. During the communication for one event is something that you don't improvise. You prepare it with months in advance. And there was a moment that we knew that our audience was very sensitive to go into an event, to have like the physical, they have like a kind of a physical barrier. And because they cannot move to one place, and also it was there was a lot of uncertainty about what we will be doing in the following months. So we have never had like a pure commercial strategy in terms of communication with regards to events. We always mix content and a commercial point of view for all the campaigns that we have. But we decided to leave, to put aside all the type of commercial communication for those events. So instead of saying to the audience, register to this event, what we did is having interviews with people that we used to have in events, preparing content related to it, and only mentioning that if we had the opportunity to meet them in the following months, we will do so. But what we did is moving for a pure commercial and content strategy to a content strategy, to a fully content strategy. And that worked for us very well. And afterwards, we have moved to a virtual environment. So what we are doing is having virtual events with our audience and trying to have the experience that we have in the physical events in the virtual environment. So promoting networking activities, promoting this kind of leisure environment or a kind of humoristic sessions with the audience. So for us, all the things is related to the experience, having a very good experience in events, although they are virtual ones.
Okay. And so to understand, I guess your business model isn't actually like selling the events. It's more like connecting the startups with the corporates. Is that right?
So for us, the most relevant thing is connecting with startups and connecting with entrepreneurs.
Mm-hmm. So it's not like detrimental if you can't do it in an event. Like you have other ways you can connect with the startups. Basically, that's what you're finding is ways to do that online.
Yes, we are kind of a facilitator. What we are looking at the end is transforming the finance and the insurance sector. So we believe that if we get in touch with different people and we help them to get in touch with other nodes or with the other dots in the community, they are going to be able to create more sense and to create disruptive solutions in the industry.
Mm-hmm. Okay, absolutely. Do you have any like names of companies that we might know who have like come out of the program?
So, well, one of the programs that we have run, and the final demo day of this program took place in the early May. So actually, it was like several weeks ago. Is a startup bootcamp. So in the startup bootcamp program, we have a portfolio of 45 startups that took part of different cycles of the program in different years. And some of them are Prestanómico, Sonet, Alfie, Voila. So many different companies, Prometeo as well, many different companies that are well known in the Latin American countries. And on the corporate side, we collaborate with banks like, for example, HSBC, Scotiabank, BBA, Santander, Banco Azteca, and other different companies.
Mm-hmm. I see. Very interesting. And actually, I wanted to ask you also, like, what the transition has been like for you, because you went from journalism to working in corporate marketing, and then now working in a smaller team in this kind of organization. What was attractive about this new job, and how have you been adapting?
Yeah, so actually, when you are working in a very big company, you have the opportunity to work at one project at a time. And well, it was my case for the time that I was working in big companies, and those projects normally are really long, so they can be like 10 months, they can be 1 year long, and actually some of the projects that I've been working on has been 3 years or more long. So when I'm working at Finnovista, I have the opportunity to be working at 4 or 5 projects at a time. And so it's something that it really gives you the opportunity to enrich your career. It gives you the opportunity to gain a lot of experience in communication and marketing. So actually, I'm having a lot of fun, and I'm having a lot of different opportunities to get in touch with different people, and I'm really happy about it. Yeah.
Cool. So what would you say has been your biggest challenge, or what you've had to learn the most about in the new role?
So right now, I will say that, and also at the beginning of the role, one of the biggest challenges is teleworking. So many of the activities that we developed at Finnovista take place in Mexico. So we have to work a lot of remote work, but finally it's something that you got used to. So it's a challenge at the beginning, but at the end it's not so hard. And maybe it was one of the things that was a challenge. But at the same time, having the opportunity to work very closely with people that are living in different countries gives you the opportunity to know a lot about their culture, know a lot about the type of problems or pain points they have, and also you have the opportunity to work with them closely. So for me now, when I visit Mexico, I don't feel like a tourist, although I can be. I feel that I can understand the country much more better than I can do it before.
Mm-hmm. That's very cool. It's a great opportunity. Well, let's move to your recommendations. Could you tell me an influencer in your country who you'd recommend? You're in Spain, by the way. I don't know if we mentioned that, but yeah.
So, well, one of the influencers that I like is Vilma Núñez. So I like to read the blog post. If I had the opportunity to listen to her in a conference, I choose to do it. And it's something, I like her view of communications. I like how she understands the marketing and communication activities. Also, some of the books that I like the most in communication. There is one that is basic for me and it's very related to finance in a way, not to finance strictly, but to a way of thinking in numbers. That is Web Analytics 2.0 by Avinash Kosnik. That is something that the book I think is like 10 years old or something like that, and I still use it. So it has many recommendations about how to monitor your activities. And another book that I like a lot is Socialholic. I know it's in Spanish. I don't know if it has been translated to English. It has been written by two brothers, Juan Polo and Fernando Polo. They are the owners of a Spanish agency that is called Good Rebels. And it's a kind of manual for social media activity. But what I like about this book is that more than guidance for social media activity is guidance for building a community. And I think it's much more important to build a community than to manage social media from a technical point of view.
Mm-hmm. And I guess that's really important in your sector, where it's all about community, right?
Really important, really important. So I say that one of the main strengths is the community. Yes.
And then your favorite app at the moment, at least.
So, although I'm not a yogi, my favorite app, because what I like about it is the user experience mainly, is Down Dog. I've tried it, and I know if there is a moment that I do yoga on a daily basis, it could be because of this app, because it's very, very good. So you have the opportunity to choose what type of yoga you would like to practice. You can choose the intensity, and also you can modify if you would like to have like a long relax period at the end of it, a short one, the type of music that you have. So it's perfect. So actually, if you are interested in trying yoga, or you are a practitioner already, it's a very good app.
Yeah,
And
cool.
if I have to create an app that is related to a different thing, I will choose this one to get inspiration.
Nice.
Yeah.
I guess you got to use it a bit during the quarantine period.
Yes, actually, they have like a very good marketing strategy during it. Well, marketing strategy, and also a kind of goodwill action at the same time. That it was giving for free the app to everyone that wanted to test it, and afterwards they moved to the freemium scheme that they have always had. But you had the opportunity to test it for free during the pandemic.
I see, and get used to all the great pro features. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. So yeah, well, to finish up the interview, do you have any parting advice for other marketers? Maybe especially those who might work with Latin America?
Well, something that is really important, and well, I have the opportunity to work a lot with entrepreneurs, and all the methodologies that are related to innovation. And I have to confess that something that has helped me a lot during last years is the entrepreneurial mindset. So whenever I have to face a communication activity right now, what I think is, what's the problem? What are the solutions? And for me to create a very captivating campaign, this is key. And so having an entrepreneurial mindset, that could be a piece of advice for me. Another one will be using plans, and using templates. So I have created my own digital marketing and communication templates, and I try to use it to every activity that I have to face. And I have found out that it saves a lot of time to me. So that's something that I will appreciate to have known at the beginning. And
I noticed that Vilma Nunez actually has a lot of great templates on her website. So it's going to be a good resource. Yeah.
Yes. And also another thing that is very important for me. So for example, when I arrived to Finnovista, one of the challenges that I have was delivering communication materials with very high quality. And for me, a way to ensure that we have a very high quality in the communication materials is loving the language. And for example, when I speak with some people, that they think that because I've been reading for a long time, I don't use a dictionary anymore, and that's not true. Whenever you have to work with a language, you have to be learning about the language on a daily basis. So improve your language is something that is really important, to have a very high quality materials. And especially for me in terms of English, that I'm not a native speaker, and I have a lot I have a lot to learn yet. And also something that is really important in terms of quality, for me, is having the type of processes that you can find in a newspaper or in the media. So all the things that we publish have been reviewed by another person in the team. So you have an edition process that is similar to the one that you have in the newspaper. You create the communication material, and it can be an article, it can be an editorial calendar, it can be an email marketing campaign, and then you pass it to another colleague, and this person reviews it. And it's something that is working for us. It's helped us to improve the communication a lot. And finally, and this is something that I would have liked to know before, networking is important, and you have to dedicate time to networking. And when I say time, I think that you have to dedicate at least 5% of your time to networking, meeting another colleagues, getting in touch with different people in different regions. I think it's really the key to move forward in your career.
And to keep learning, right? Learning from other people's experience. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for sharing your experience with us and the whole Content Mix community. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah. And thanks everybody for listening in. For more perspectives on the content marketing industry in Europe, check out thecontentmix.com and keep tuning into the podcast where we'll be publishing interviews like this one every weekday. See you next time.